Welcome to the deep dive. Sometimes you hear about these workplace issues that seem, well, pretty straightforward on the
Right,
surface.
like a dress code complaint.
Exactly. You think, okay, someone talks to someone, maybe there's a policy reminder, and that's that.
It's sorted.
But what if that simple complaint just completely unravels, spirals into something really distressing, a proper HR nightmare?
That's exactly what we're unpacking today. We're looking at the case of Amy Tonkin at Mike Carney Toyota in Townsville.
This story, it's based on an AWDR article, Unfair Treatment at Work, the Toyota dress code scandal. And it really shows how fast things can go wrong, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's almost a textbook example, unfortunately, of how a minor policy review can just blow up into this huge ethical and managerial mess.
Leaving an employee feeling, well, the report says mortified, and eventually resigning.
Exactly.
Right.
So our mission today really is to pull this apart. We want to extract those crucial lessons, about managing things properly, communicating effectively, and just the basic responsibilities employers have.
Sort of a shortcut, maybe, to understanding some of those really complex nuances of workplace fairness and just professional behavior.
That's the idea.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics then. Amy Tonkin. She started as a salesperson at this Toyota dealership back in July 2023.
Right.
Things seem okay for a bit, but then just a few months later, October last year, the dealership gets this, well, frankly quite odd customer complaint about a short skirt club.
Yeah, that's the term used. A short skirt club.
So how did management first handle that?
Well, initially, it was fairly standard procedure, you could say.
Yeah.
The complaint came in, management looked at their uniform policy,
Okay.
and they sent out a general reminder to staff about the dress code. Nothing targeted at first.
Right, just a blanket, hey everyone, remember the rules. Seems reasonable enough.
At that stage, yeah, it looked like a standard internal HR thing.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because clearly it didn't stay standard for long. This is where things really start to take a turn, right? What was the first, direct interaction with Ms. Tonkin about this?
That happened on January 2nd. An HR representative met with her,
Okay.
told her skirt was above the knee, but then, and this is where it starts getting difficult, they also suggested she, quote, try on a larger skirt size.
Wait, hang on. Trying a larger skirt size. That's not about the policy anymore, is it? That's a comment about her body.
Precisely. It shifts from the uniform itself to her physique.
That must have felt incredibly personal. And did it stop there? Or did it escalate?
Oh, it escalated. Pretty dramatically, actually. Just
Yeah.
a few days later, around January 5th, so the following Monday,
Right.
that same HR representative sent a memo directly to Mrs. Tonkin.
A memo. Okay.
But, and this is really a key point, they copied her line managers on this memo.
Whoa. Okay, so seeing the bosses, that immediately takes it out of the realm of a private HR conversation.
Completely. It's semi-public within her management chain now.
And what did this memo actually say? Because I'm guessing it wasn't just your skirt's too short.
You're right. It wasn't. The content was. Well, it's pretty shocking, frankly. The memo stated that Mrs. Tonkins, and I'm quoting again, body proportions have made it challenging to find a skirt that fits properly.
Wow. Body proportions in writing, copied to her managers.
Yes.
That is staggering. I mean, that's just an astonishingly inappropriate thing to put in a formal work communication. How on earth did Ms. Tonkin react?
Predictably, she was extremely upset. The very next day, January 6th, she wrote back.
Yeah.
She said she was, quote, quite upset by the comments about my body shape, and she wanted to, quote, remind the business how much embarrassment I have suffered as a result.
Good for her for saying so. Did she ask why her managers were copied?
She did. She specifically questioned why they were included in that email, which seems like a perfectly reasonable question to ask in that situation.
Absolutely. So she's clearly distressed. She's embarrassed. She's questioned the process. How did the company respond when she tried to follow up on this? Did they acknowledge how badly they'd handled it?
Not really, no. There was a follow-up meeting on January 10th. And during that meeting, she asked if other female employees had been, scrutinized in the same way.
A fair question, given the original short skirt club complaint.
You'd think so, but her question was dismissed. They told her it was inappropriate to ask that.
Inappropriate. They comment on her body proportions in writing to her managers, and her question about fairness is inappropriate. That's incredible.
It's very dismissive, yes. It really seems like they weren't willing to engage with her concerns about fairness or potential bias at all.
So she's singled out, her body is discussed in a memo, her managers know, and when she asks reasonable questions, she's shut down. What was the impact of all this on her?
Well, it seems it was significant. Later that same day, January 10th, she had a medical appointment.
Right?
And during that appointment, she experienced what she later described as a mental breakdown. She told her doctor she felt like her body was being blamed because it didn't fit the uniform.
Oh, that's awful. It's awful.
Understandably, she was then placed on stress leave.
Which is hardly surprising given the circumstances. That's a direct health impact from what started as a dress code review. Did anyone at the company at this point finally realize how badly they'd messed up?
There was some acknowledgement eventually.
Yeah.
A former general manager apparently conceded on January 14th, saying, quote, "It just never should have happened."
Okay, so some admission there. Was there an apology?
Yes, a formal apology was offered, but, and this is where it gets really interesting,
Uh-oh, there's a catch.
there's a big catch. The apology was conditional.
Conditional. Oh.
It was offered on the condition that Mrs. Tonkin acknowledge in writing that this cannot be used further against the company in any way.
Wait, what? So, we're sorry, but only if you sign this document saying you won't sue us or complain further.
Essentially, yes, it was an apology tied to a legal waiver.
That doesn't sound like a genuine apology at all. That sounds like damage control, like a legal maneuver.
That's certainly how Mrs. Tonkin perceived it.
So what does she do? Did she sign it?
No, she refused. She wouldn't sign anything that would, in her words, silence her.
Good for her. I mean, accepting that would basically validate their attempt to buy her silence rather than actually making amends.
Exactly. And it really highlights the company's mindset at this point. Their priority seems to have been legal protection, not genuinely addressing the harm caused.
Yeah, that speaks volumes. Okay, so she refuses the conditional apology. She's been on stress leave. She eventually comes back to work.
She does. She returned from leave on January 20th.
Okay. And how did that go? Was the issue dropped? Was the new uniform ready?
Well, she returned still wearing the skirt that had caused all the fuss, because apparently she was still waiting for a new uniform to be provided.
Right. So the core issue wasn't even resolved from a practical standpoint.
Doesn't seem so. And then, just a few days later, January 24th, there's another meeting.
Oh, boy. What now?
The general manager reportedly asked her if she could go to the shops now and buy some trousers that conform.
They asked her to go shopping after everything. After she just came back from stress leave because of how they handled her uniform.
That's what's reported, yes. Asking her to go out and buy compliant trousers herself.
That just seems unbelievably insensitive, putting the onus back on her again.
It does seem that way. Apparently she initially agreed, perhaps just trying to move past it all.
Yeah, maybe just wanting it to be over.
But it seems the cumulative effect of everything, the memo, the comments, the conditional apology, it was all too much.
So what happened?
On January 28th, she resigned, sent an email.
Okay.
And in her exit paperwork, she was very clear about her reasons. She stated that her treatment had, quote, resulted in myself being sexually harassed, discriminated, and bullied.
Strong words. Sexual harassment, discrimination, and bullying. How did the company react to her resignation and those very serious claims?
They completely rejected them, flat out. The general manager wrote back to her saying, quote, "We do not believe that there can be any suggestion that you have been sexually harassed, discriminated against, or bullied."
So, total denial.
Total denial. They continued, "All matters relating to your compliance with the dress code have been appropriately and reasonably attended to by us."
Appropriately and reasonably? Wow, that's quite a different perspective on events.
It certainly is. So from their official standpoint, they maintain they did absolutely nothing wrong throughout the entire process.
Okay, so she resigns, makes these claims, the company denies them. This ends up going to the Fair Work Commission, right? Australia's Workplace Tribunal. What did they find?
Yes, it did go before the FWC. The ultimate legal finding was that Mrs. Tonkin had resigned of her own volition. She wasn't found to have been forced out or constructively dismissed in legal terms.
Meaning her claim was dismissed.
Correct, her claim was dismissed.
So, legally speaking, the company won. They avoided a formal finding against them for unfair dismissal related to these events?
That's the legal outcome, yes.
But I feel a but coming.
Hmm.
That wasn't the end of the story from the commission's perspective, was it? The tribunal member had more to say.
Absolutely. And this is such a critical piece of nuance in this whole story. While the legal outcome was that she resigned voluntarily, the tribunal member who heard the case explicitly stated that the entire incident was, quote, poorly handled from start to finish.
Okay, so even though the claim was dismissed, they recognized the mishandling?
They went further than that. They called it a, quote, Stark example of how employers should not manage sensitive staff issues.
Wow. So a legal victory for the company on the dismissal claim, but a really clear public rebuke of their actual management practices.
Precisely. It's a perfect illustration of that gap that can exist between strict legal compliance or lack of breach and ethical, respectful, competent management.
That's a really crucial distinction, isn't it? What's technically legal isn't always right or smart or decent. Okay, so we've laid out the timeline, the key events, the legal finding, and the criticism. So what does this all mean? Let's transition now. For employers, for employees, for anyone navigating workplace issues, what are the big takeaways here?
Exactly. Because beyond the legal technicalities, this case is just loaded with lessons about poor management and, frankly, a failure of basic respect. The first, and maybe the most obvious lesson is, public shaming is not HR.
Right, that memo.
That memo. The decision to discuss an employee's physical attributes, her body proportions, in writing,
Yeah.
and then copying her managers. It's just a staggering breach of privacy and professional conduct.
It really is. It completely undermines the purpose of HR, which should be about confidential support and fair policy application, not humiliating people in front of their bosses.
Why do you think companies still make mistakes like this? Is it lack of training, lack of empathy?
It could be a mix of things. Sometimes it's poor training. Sometimes it's a company culture that prioritizes bluntness over sensitivity. Sometimes it's just individuals making incredibly poor judgment calls. But whatever the reason, conversations about things like uniform policy must be private.
And focused on the policy, right? Not the person's body. Absolutely. Focus on the garment and the policy requirements. Is the skirt length compliant? Yes or no? That's it. Bringing body proportions into it is humiliating, unprofessional, and, as you can see here, potentially discriminatory. It's just fundamentally wrong.
Okay, so lesson one, keep it private, keep it professional, focus on policy, not people's bodies. What's the next big takeaway?
The second lesson is about apologies. Specifically, accountability requires a genuine apology.
Ah, right. The conditional apology they offered.
Exactly. Offering an apology only if the employee signs away their right to pursue the matter further. That's not a sincere apology. It's not about making amends.
It's a legal strategy.
It's purely a legal maneuver. It's designed to protect the company, to silence the employee, and to limit liability. It tells the employee that the company's primary concern isn't the harm caused, but avoiding consequences.
Which must feel incredibly invalidating for the person who's been wronged.
Totally. A genuine apology acknowledges the wrongdoing, expresses remorse, maybe explains how things will change. It aims to repair trust. This conditional stuff, it does the opposite. It deepens the harm, destroys trust, and really just confirms the company isn't truly sorry for its actions, only for the potential repercussions.
So if you mess up, own it properly. Don't try to hide behind legal clauses in your apology. What else?
The third point flows from their reaction to her claims. It's about blaming the victim.
How did that play out here?
Remember their final letter rejecting her claims of harassment and bullying? They described Mrs. Tonkin herself as being argumentative and confrontational.
Right. So instead of looking at their actions that caused her distress.
They criticized her reaction to being mistreated. It's a classic tactic.
Yeah.
Shift the focus, shift the blame onto the person who's reacting to poor treatment.
That is such a common but really damaging response. It ignores the cause and effect, doesn't it?
Completely. A responsible employer, when faced with an employee expressing distress or anger about their treatment, should try to understand why. What did we do that led to this reaction? Instead, they attacked her character for being upset by their unprofessionalism. It shows a real lack of empathy and a refusal to take responsibility.
Okay, so don't shame publicly, apologize genuinely, don't blame the victim. That brings us to the final point about the legal versus ethical dimension, right?
Exactly. The fourth key takeaway is understanding the difference between a legal victory versus ethical failure.
Because legally, they won the dismissal case.
They did. They avoided that specific legal finding. But look at the cost. Their actions, as the FWC member noted, were poorly handled and an example of how not to manage. Ethically, managerially. It was a profound failure.
And that has real consequences, even without a legal loss.
Huge consequences. This kind of approach absolutely demolishes employee morale. It damages the company's reputation. I mean, we're talking about it now because it became public. It signals a potentially toxic work culture where dignity isn't prioritized.
So the lesson is, don't think that just because something might be legally defensible, it's the right or acceptable way to treat people.
Precisely. Legal compliance is the absolute minimum standard. It's the floor, not the ceiling. Ethical conduct, respectful management, basic human decency, that's the standard employers should be aiming for. This case is just such a stark reminder of that.
It really is. So wrapping up this deep dive into the Amy Tonkin and Mike Carney Toyota case, it really hammers home that critical difference between just following the letter of the law and actually acting ethically and respectfully in the workplace.
Yeah, the need for sensitive communication, for genuine accountability apologies that mean something, and just that fundamental respect for employee dignity, it's all laid bare here.
It makes you think beyond the legal stuff, beyond even the company's reputation. What's the lasting impact of interactions like this on an employee's basic sense of safety at work, their psychological safety, their trust in management and HR?
That's a huge question. How can employees feel safe or trust the system when they see things handled this way?
And maybe what responsibility do we all have, whether we're employees or managers or leaders, to help build workplaces where respect is just the baseline, where it's non-negotiable, even when you're dealing with tricky things like dress codes?
It's something worth reflecting on, definitely. How do these principles apply in our own environments? How can we ensure dignity is always part of the equation?
Some important questions to ponder. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.